If someone had told me the bride who ran would find home in the driver's seat, I wouldn't have believed it. The room smelled unmistakably of roses and deceit. Lilies bordered the aisle like vows, tender, perfumed, and so easy to crush. Ava stood at the altar, a shaken goddess in white satin, veil quivering with every thin breath, fingers stiff around a bouquet that had hardened into a shackle. 1,000 faces stared, waiting, expecting, ravenous, unblinking, all of them. Yet the only gaze she hunted, the only one that mattered, was nowhere in the pews. Her fiancé, Preston Whitmore, scion of the Whitmore banking empire, was gone. No call, no message, no explanation, just gone. The whispers spread like wildfire through the crowd. Her mother clutched at pearls she didn't earn, and her father stared at the marble floor as if trying to find his pride in its veins. Ava couldn't breathe. Her heart wasn't broken, it was obliterated. And in that shattering silence, when even the string quartet faltered, she turned on trembling heels, dropped the bouquet, and ran down the aisle, past judgmental stares and sympathetic gasps until she reached the massive wooden doors and pushed them open like someone escaping a burning building. The sun hit her like a slap. Reporters flashed cameras. Paparazzi screamed questions, but she didn't stop. The heels came off. The dress bunched in her fists, and she ran until her legs gave out. Somewhere near the edge of the city, by a road where no limousines passed, and no silk-lined escapes waited, she collapsed onto the curb, gasping, her face a canvas of mascara and devastation. "Rough day?" a voice asked, low and amused. Ava whipped around. A woman stood beside a modest black car, driver's cap slightly crooked, aviators hiding her eyes, jaw sharp as sin. "Hey, if you're enjoying this story, go ahead and drop a like to help us grow even more. And let me know in the comments. On a scale from 0 to 10, what score would you give this story so far? Your feedback makes all the difference." She was chewing gum, too casual for the chaos unraveling around them. "What gave it away?" Ava rasped. The woman nodded at the white dress and tear-streaked cheeks. "Either you just ditched your own wedding or someone else's." Ava laughed. "Or cried." It was hard to tell. "Need a ride?" the woman offered. "Where to?" "Anywhere but here." The woman opened the door like it was a portal to another life. "Name's Reese." Ava hesitated then slid in. The car smelled like peppermint and freedom. She didn't ask questions. She didn't care where they were going. She just needed to move. Reese didn't speak much as the city slipped past them. Glittering towers, broken dreams, Ava's old life. "You okay?" Reese finally asked somewhere past the bridges. "No," Ava whispered. "Good. People who say they're okay right after being wrecked are either lying or suppressing. You don't seem like either." Ava turned to her. "You always pick up barefoot brides off the street only on Tuesdays." "It's Friday." Reese smirked. "I'll make an exception." The car wound through roads Ava didn't recognize. Eventually, they stopped in front of a humble lakeside cabin. Wooden, charming, quiet. "I rent this place," Reese said, unlocking the door. "It's nothing fancy, but it's safe." Ava hesitated. Her life was penthouses, private chefs, and high society claws. But none of that mattered anymore. And something about Reese, her calm, her sarcasm, her complete indifference to the disaster Ava was felt like oxygen. "You can crash here until you figure things out," Reese added. "Unless you plan to marry someone else tomorrow." "God, no." "Cool. Then you get the couch." "I'm not a monster." That night, Ava lay awake listening to the soft hum of the lake, the creak of the old floorboards, and Reese moving around in the kitchen like she belonged to this quiet world. And for the first time since being left at the altar, Ava felt something unexpected, relief. She didn't know who Reese really was. She didn't know where she was going next. But as Reese slid a mug of tea into her hands and sat across from her, one socked foot tucked beneath her, Ava looked at her and felt her stomach twist. Not from heartbreak, from something far more dangerous. Intrigue. The woman who rescued her wasn't just a driver. That much she was starting to sense. But what she didn't know, what she couldn't know was that Reese owned more than the car. She owned the cabin, the land, half the county, and the empire. Ava once thought she needed to survive. The lake was glass in the morning, reflecting a sky too blue to match Ava's mood. She sat on the tiny porch of Reese's cabin, wrapped in a blanket, her wedding dress crumpled beside her like a discarded life. The tea in her hands was warm, but her insides were still cold, still raw. She hadn't slept. Not really. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Preston's empty spot at the altar. Her father's tight jaw, the flash of 100 cameras as she ran. But here, the silence wasn't judgmental. It was healing. Reese emerged from the cabin barefoot holding 2 mugs. She wore a worn black t-shirt, low-slung joggers, and a sleek look that should not have been as attractive as it was. "Did you sleep at all?" Reese asked, handing her a fresh mug. "No," Ava admitted. "Figured. You kept sighing like someone narrating a tragedy." "Maybe because it was M." Reese sipped her coffee, then sat beside her. "Well, you're alive. That counts for something, does it?" Ava asked, voice brittle. "When everything I thought my life would be just evaporated," Reese looked at her serious now. "Sometimes that's the best thing that can happen. Being humiliated in front of 500 people. Being freed from a life that wasn't yours." Ava scoffed. "You don't even know me." "You're right. But I know that look. It's the same one I had when I walked away from my old life." Ava turned to her surprised. "You?" Reese shrugged. "Different dress. Different disaster. But yeah, what did you walk away from?" Reese paused, eyes flicking to the lake. "Let's just say a life that looked good on paper, but I was suffocating." Ava sipped her tea. "So now you're a driver, among other things." "What does that mean?" Reese smirked. "It means I do what I want when I want and I answer to no one." There was something in her tone, casual but edged, like she was telling the truth without telling everything. Ava studied her. Reese was hard to read. She had the energy of someone who'd seen too much, who had secrets stitched into her skin. And yet, she made Ava feel seen in a way no one else had. Not even Preston, especially not Preston. Later, they went into town for groceries. Ava insisted on coming, even in borrowed clothes and oversized sunglasses. The town was small, quaint, the kind of place where people nodded and smiled and didn't ask questions. Reese was known here. The cashier called her boss, but Ava assumed it was just a nickname. "You live here full-time?" she asked as they loaded paper bags into the trunk. "No, I have places." "Places? Cabins? Apartments?" "Depends on the mood." "Sounds like a dream." "Freedom is a dream. Most people are too afraid to chase it." That night, after cooking a surprisingly good pasta together, Ava chopping vegetables like it was therapy and Reese humming along to an old vinyl record, Ava found herself watching Reese more than she should. The way her hands moved, the curve of her smile, the way she made space without asking questions. "Why are you helping me?" Ava asked quietly. Reese looked up from her glass of wine. "Because I've been you and because you looked like you needed someone to remind you that the world doesn't end when one man vanishes." "It wasn't just him," Ava whispered. "It was my future. My place. My name." "No," Reese said gently. "It was their version of your future. Their idea of your place. Their name. Not yours." The words hit something deep. Ava felt tears rise again, but this time she didn't hide them. Reese just reached over and squeezed her hand, warm and firm, and it undid something. Later, long after Reese went to bed, Ava stood by the lake in borrowed sweatpants, staring at her reflection. Who is she without the Whitmores, without the mansion, the image, the expectations? She didn't know, but maybe that was the point. Behind her, she heard footsteps. "Can't sleep again?" Reese asked, her voice low. "Didn't mean to wake you?" "You didn't?" They stood in silence for a long time, side by side. Then Reese said, "You don't have to figure it all out tonight. Just breathe. That's enough for now." Ava turned to her. "Why do you always say the right thing?" Reese smirked. "I don't. I just say what I wish someone had told me." Ava looked at her, really looked, and something shifted. Not just gratitude, not just comfort. It was the start of a pull, subtle, electric. She took a half step closer. Reese didn't move away. The moment stretched between them like a string drawn tight. Then Reese gently broke it. "Come on, it's cold. You'll freeze before you find yourself." Ava smiled just barely, but it was real. She followed Reese back into the cabin, her heartbeat louder than the wind. She still didn't know who she was. But tonight, she knew who she wanted near. Ava woke with sunlight on her face and the scent of coffee in the air, but her chest still carried the weight of everything unspoken between them. Reese was in the kitchen, humming some old blues tune, barefoot again, sleeves rolled up as she flipped pancakes like it was second nature. Ava stood in the doorway for a moment watching her and something in her act. Not the broken part from the wedding, but something newer, more confusing, more dangerous. Reese glanced over. You want some? I'm not really hungry, Ava murmured, stepping closer. That's what sad people say before eating half the stack. I'm not sad. Reese raised an eyebrow. Okay, you're just brooding in gray sweatpants, staring at me like a wounded poet. Ava couldn't help the soft laugh that escaped. Fine, maybe a little hungry. Victory. They sat at the small table, the morning sun pouring in like liquid gold. Ava stabbed at a pancake. You know, it's weird. I should still be crying, but I'm not. That's not weird, Reese said. That's survival. It feels more like detachment, like I don't recognize myself anymore. Maybe you're meeting the real you for the first time. The words hit something deep, but Ava didn't respond. Instead, she looked at Reese. Really? Looked. Why are you single? Reese smirked. That a breakfast table question. I'm serious. Reese leaned back in her chair. Because I don't do fake and most people can't handle real. You think I'm fake? No. Reese said slowly. I think you've been forced to be, but not by choice. Ava looked down. Preston liked when I stayed quiet in public. Said it was more elegant. Reese's jaw tightened. Elegant sounds like code for obedient. He wasn't cruel, just controlled everything. And you let him? Ava flinched. Reese sighed. Sorry, that was blunt. No, it's fair. I did let him. I wanted the life he offered. What did he offer? Power, prestige, a future carved in gold and love. Ava hesitated. I thought so, but maybe I just love the idea of being loved. Reese studied her. That's not the same thing. I know. Silence settled again, but this time it wasn't heavy. It was full of unsaid truths. That afternoon, Ava wandered to the dock with a journal she found in a drawer. She hadn't written in years, but the words poured out now, angry and raw and strangely beautiful. She wrote about being left, about losing herself, about Reese. She wasn't sure why she included her, but she did. The way Reese moved, spoke, saw her. She wrote about how it made her feel something she didn't have a name for, something new, something that scared her. She didn't hear Reese approaching until she sat beside her. 2 lemonades in hand. Didn't peg you for a writer? Reese said, I'm not. Could have fooled me. Ava glanced at her. You read it? Nope. Just saw the look on your face. That's the look of someone bleeding on paper. Ava offered a small smile. It helps. Reese nodded. So does this. She handed her a lemonade. Their fingers brushed. The contact was brief but electric. Ava felt her breath hitch and hated how obvious it probably was. You ever think about what you'd do if you weren't you? Reese asked suddenly. All the time, but I don't even know who I am now. Good. That means you're free to figure it out. Ava looked at her, eyes narrowing. You talk like someone who's already figured it all out. Nope. I talk like someone who gave up trying to fit into boxes that weren't made for me. And now you just drive people around. Reese laughed a low rich sound. Is that how you still see me? I don't know how I see you. Good. Reese stood. Keep it that way. But there was something playful in her eyes. Something that invited pursuit. That evening, Reese offered to take Ava out on the lake. Just a little boat, nothing fancy, but the water was smooth and the sky was fire orange with dusk. Ava sat at the front, wind in her hair, for once, not thinking about what the tabloids were saying or what her family was planning. I needed this, she said quietly. Reese rowing looked up. I know. You always know. Nah, I just listen better than most. Ava turned toward her. Why did you really pick me up that day? Reese blinked. What? You don't know me? Why did you help me? Reese stopped rowing. The boat drifted in silence. Then slowly, because you looked like someone who'd been pretending for so long, she didn't even remember how to fall apart. And I know what that feels like. Ava's throat tightened. I'm tired of pretending. Reese's eyes met hers. Then don't. The distance between them was small. So small. Ava leaned forward just slightly and Reese didn't move away. Didn't stop her. Their faces were inches apart when a sudden breeze rocked the boat, jarring them back. Reese exhaled. We should head in. But her voice was now unsteady. Ava didn't protest. Back at the cabin, Reese disappeared into her room without another word. Ava stood in the hallway, heart racing. She pressed a hand to her chest trying to steady it. She didn't know what was happening. Or maybe she did, and that was what terrified her. Ava couldn't sleep again. The air in the cabin felt too still, like the moment on the boat had unsettled something beneath her skin, and now nothing fit quite right. She kept replaying it, how close they'd been. The look in Reese's eyes, the way neither of them had spoken afterward. It hadn't been nothing. She knew that. But the silence since then made her question everything. When morning came, Reese was already gone. No note, no message, just a steaming mug of coffee left on the counter and an empty dock where the boat bobbed gently. Ava sat on the porch, staring out at the lake, hugging her knees to her chest. Her heart was louder now, harder to ignore. There was a pull between them, magnetic and maddening. And yet Reese kept stepping back every time it got close to tipping into something real. Ava didn't know if it was fear, restraint, or some deeper reason Reese hadn't shared. Whatever it was, it made her feel like she was suspended in mad air on the edge of something that could either catch her or let her fall. When Reese returned mid-morning, her expression was unreadable. "Town run," she said casually, unloading a brown paper bag from the passenger seat. "Got eggs, coffee, and those strawberry things you pretended not to love." Ava tried to smile. "You didn't have to. I wanted to." The words hung in the air, heavier than they should have been. "Thanks." Reese hesitated, then said. "I figure we could go for a hike later. Get out of the cabin. Stretch your legs. Clear your head." "Clear yours, too?" Ava asked, not hiding the edge in her tone. Reese glanced at her. Maybe the trail behind the cabin twisted through pine trees and wild flowers, a quiet escape from the lake's stillness. Ava walked beside Reese in silence, stealing glances at her when she thought she wouldn't notice. There was always something guarded about Reese, like she'd built walls so high even she couldn't remember what was behind them. "You always emotionally unavailable? Or is it just with me?" Ava asked suddenly, stopping on the path. Reese turned surprised. "Excuse me, don't play dumb. We almost kissed last night." Reese looked away. "Yeah, we did. And then you vanished like nothing happened." "Because nothing did." Reese's jaw clenched. "What do you want me to say, Ava?" "The truth. For once." Reese ran a hand through her hair, frustrated. "The truth is, I don't do this. I don't get involved. Especially not with people who are healing, fragile, confused. So I'm just a mess to you?" "No," Reese said, voice low. "You're too much. You make me feel things I don't want to feel. Things I buried a long time ago. So putting them back in the ground is easier than being honest?" "Yes," she snapped, then, softer, "yes. Because I know what happens when I let people in, and I'm not doing that again." Ava stared at her, breath unsteady. "Then why pick me up that day? Why bring me here? Cook for me? Talk to me like I matter? Because you do matter." The words fell out like a confession she hadn't meant to give. They held each other's gaze while the wind moved through the trees like a sigh. Then Reese turned and started up the path. Ava followed, heart in freefall. At the ridge, a rough outcrop opened to a broad sweep of lake below. Reese lowered herself onto a boulder, shoulders tight. Ava sank beside her. "You're scared," she said gently. "And you're not?" "I am," Ava admitted, "but I'm more afraid of feeling nothing than feeling too much." Reese looked over, something raw flickering in her eyes. "You don't even know who I really am." "Then show me." Reese didn't answer. She just watched the horizon. That night, back at the cabin, the quiet had a different weight. They didn't cook. They phoned in for takeout from the nearest town and ate noodles from cartons on the floor. Reese seemed changed, softer at the edges, yet somehow farther away, like a piece of herself had slipped out and she was already trying to reel it back. Ava watched her. Every movement, every glance, and the tension between them crackled like a live wire. After dinner, Reese stood and said, "I need to show you something." She led Ava to a small office in the back of the cabin, one Ava hadn't even noticed before. Inside, sleek equipment, framed architectural prints, blueprints, files, and a large monitor hummed to life. "What is this?" Ava asked. Reese exhaled. "My work, my company. I build, design, invest. I'm not just a driver. That was never really the point, but this looks like a multi-million-dollar setup." "Because it is." Ava stared at her. "You're rich." Reese hesitated, wealthy, successful, independent. "Take your pick." "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because the moment people know, they change. They want something or they resent it. Or they see you as a number, not a person. And what do you think I'd do?" Reese looked at her. "I didn't know. Still don't." Ava stepped closer. You think I'd care more about your bank account than your silence? Then the way you look at me when you think I'm not watching. Reese didn't respond. You think I ran from my wedding just to fall for another lie? Reese's breath hitched. I'm not lying. Then stop hiding. Ava touched her hand. Reese didn't pull away. Tell me who you really are. Reese swallowed. I'm someone who built an empire from nothing. Who left a family that didn't believe in me. Who lost the woman I loved because I was too afraid to fight for her. I've spent years hiding in plain sight, driving strangers around, renting cabins, building businesses under shell names just to stay invisible. And then you showed up in that damn dress, barefoot and broken, and you looked at me like I was someone worth trusting. Ava felt tears sting her eyes. You are. They stood there, the monitor glowing behind them, the weight of their truths finally spoken. And just when it felt like everything might fall into place, Reese stepped back. I need space. The words cut like glass. Ava nodded, her chest tight. Fine. She left the room without another word. Behind her, Reese sat in the chair, face in her hands, like she'd just torn herself open and wasn't sure how to survive it. The days that followed were filled with almost conversations, almost confessions, almost touches. Reese withdrew into herself, quieter than before. And Ava felt every inch of that distance like a bruise spreading across her chest. They still shared the same space, the same meals, the same quiet mornings by the lake. But the connection that had been crackling between them like fire now simmered beneath a layer of self-imposed restraint. Reese was different now, not just in silence, but in the way she moved around Ava carefully, like Ava had become something fragile or dangerous or both. Ava hated it. She didn't want to be feared or protected. She wanted to be seen, touched, chosen. She wanted Reese fully and without hesitation, and the refusal to acknowledge what was clearly growing between them felt more cruel than comforting. One evening, as the rain drizzled against the windows, and the smell of cedar filled the living room, Ava finally snapped. You can't keep pretending this isn't happening, she said, setting down her wine glass with more force than necessary. Reese didn't look up from the blueprint she was studying. I'm not pretending. I'm protecting from what? From me? From this, Reese said tightly. From the possibility that I'll let myself care again and it'll ruin everything. Then it already has. Reese stood up. Ava, no. She interrupted, standing too. You don't get to pull me into your world. Show me who you really are. Make me feel all of this. And then disappear behind some noble excuse about protection. That's not fair. Reese's jaw clenched. This isn't about fairness. Then what is it about? Ava demanded. Fear, pride, control. It's about the fact that you just got left at the altar. And maybe, just maybe, you're not ready for what this could be. Don't put this on me, Ava said, her voice trembling. I may be healing, but I know what I feel and I know when someone's running. Reese exhaled sharply, turning away. You don't understand. Then help me understand. Ava's voice cracked. Because I'm tired of guessing what I did wrong. Reese turned back, eyes burning. You didn't do anything wrong. That's the problem. The silence between them pulsed with tension, the weight of every word unsaid pressing into their skin. Reese took a slow breath. You showed up in my life and reminded me of everything I stopped believing in. And I don't know what to do with that. You don't have to do anything, Ava said, her voice softer now. Just stop pushing me away. For a moment, Reese looked like she might say something, might finally cross that impossible distance between them. But instead, she turned and walked out the door into the rain. Ava stood there, heart pounding, every part of her screaming with the need to chase her. But she didn't. Not this time. She sat back down, staring at the empty chair Reese had left behind, and realized that whatever was building between them had now reached a tipping point. That night, she couldn't sleep again. But this time, it wasn't just longing. It was resolve. She slipped into the office Reese had shown her days ago, sat at the desk, and looked at the files, the plans, the quiet empire Reese had kept hidden from the world. There were photos, too. Some of Reese at ribbon cutings, others of properties under construction, even a few candid shots of her with people Ava didn't recognize. And in everyone, Reese had that same guarded strength, the same quiet fire. But one thing was missing. Joy. Not once did she look truly happy. Until now. Until here. Until Ava. That realization hit like lightning. This wasn't just about fear of being hurt. This was about fear of being known and loved. Anyway, the next morning, Ava was waiting. When Reese came back from her run, rain-soaked and breathless. "We need to talk," Ava said. Reese looked wary, but nodded. "Okay, I'm not a charity case," Ava began. "I'm not some broken girl you picked up and now don't know what to do with. I'm not going to fall apart if this gets real, but I will walk away if you keep treating me like something you have to hide from." Reese stared at her, soaked hair plastered to her forehead, chest rising and falling. "I've never wanted something as badly as I want you," she said quietly. "And that terrifies me." "Then let it terrify you," Ava whispered. "But don't run from it." Reese stepped forward slow, cautious. "If I give in to this, I'm all in. No walls, no hiding. You need to be sure." "I am," Ava said without hesitation. "Then I'm done pretending." And just like that, Reese pulled her into a kiss that wasn't soft or attentive. It was a storm breaking. It was everything unsaid, every repressed desire crashing forward in a tidal wave of need. Ava melted into her, fingers tangling in Reese's wet shirt, and for the first time, she felt whole. Not because someone was saving her, but because someone finally saw her. When they broke apart, foreheads touching, Reese whispered, "Stay." "I'm not going anywhere," Ava breathed. Later, wrapped in blankets by the fire, Ava traced lazy circles on Reese's arm and asked, "What now?" Reese looked at her, something new in her eyes. "Hope. Now we figured out together." And for the first time in what felt like forever, Ava believed it. The cabin had never felt more alive. Morning light poured through the windows like a quiet blessing. And for the first time since her world collapsed at the altar, Ava didn't wake up feeling like she was drowning. Reese was still beside her, arm draped across Ava's waist, breath slow and even. There was a stillness to her that Ava hadn't seen before, like she'd finally stopped running, at least for now. Ava lay there in silence, eyes on the ceiling, feeling the warmth of Reese's body and the residual hum of everything they'd shared the night before. It hadn't just been passion. It had been something sacred, something that stripped them both down to their most honest selves. Reese stirred slightly and whispered, "You're staring." "I'm thinking," Ava murmured. "Dangerous," Reese teased, her voice rough with sleep. "I know," Ava said softly. "But I'm allowed to think now, right?" Reese smiled without opening her eyes. "You're allowed to do anything you want." That should have been comforting. But the truth was, the world beyond those walls hadn't disappeared. It was waiting, watching, and neither of them could ignore it forever. Later that day, while Reese was on a business call, her tone sharp, precise, completely different from the Reese Ava had come to know, Ava sat on the porch with her phone in hand. For days, she had ignored the avalanche of missed calls and unread messages, but now curiosity outweighed fear. Her fingers trembled slightly as she scrolled through them. Her parents, her sister, friends, journalists, a few from Preston, surprisingly short and empty. But the one that made her stop breathing was a notification from the tabloids. Runaway bride found shacked up with unknown woman in secluded cabin. Exclusive photos inside. Her blood ran cold. She clicked the link and there it was. Rainey zoomed in photos of her and Reese unloading groceries standing on the dock sitting too close on the porch. They must have been taken from the trees. Paparazzi. Somehow they'd found her. She dropped the phone like it burned. Reese stepped outside a moment later mid-sentence until she saw Ava's face. "What happened?" Ava didn't answer right away. Just handed her the phone. Reese took one look and her jaw tensed. "They found me," Ava said quietly. "They found us." Reese paced for a moment, then sat beside her, scanning the article. "It's vague enough. No names, just speculation." "Speculation is enough," Ava said. "You know how my family works, how the press works. If they smell scandal, they'll tear us both apart. I'll protect you. You can't protect me from this. Try me, Reese." Ava looked at her, vulnerable in a way that made Reese feel like breaking. "They're going to twist this into something ugly. You have a life, a business, a reputation," and her voice cracked. "I just started breathing again. I don't want to be dragged back under." Reese cooped her face gently. "Then we don't let them. We stay here. We lay low. We don't give them what they want." "You really think hiding will solve it?" "No," Reese admitted. "But it'll buy us time." That night, the energy between them was heavier. Not broken, but weighed down by reality. They still touched, still kissed. But there was a question lingering in the silence. What happens when the world comes crashing through the door? Reese was up early the next morning, laptop open, fingers flying across the keyboard. Ava sat beside her watching the screen. "What are you doing?" "Fixing things by emailing contractors. By transferring assets, creating firewalls, cleaning digital footprints." "Reese, I've done this before," she said calmly. "You don't survive in my world without learning how to disappear or how to erase someone from a headline." Ava stared at her. "You scare me sometimes." Reese looked at her. "Good. That means I'm not the fairy tale you think I am." "I never thought that. You're real." "That's what terrifies me." Reese smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. Days passed. The cabin became both sanctuary and prison. Reese rarely left, always working, always watching the tree line like a soldier expecting an ambush. Ava tried to distract herself, reading, walking, writing, but her thoughts always circled back to the inevitable. This couldn't last. And one afternoon, the knock on the door proved her right. Reese froze. Ava's breath caught. Another knock. Firm, controlled. Reese stood and walked slowly to the door. When she opened it, a tall man in a black suit stood there, flanked by another. "Miss Kincaid," he said. Reese's body language shifted. Cold, composed, deadly. "You shouldn't be here. We have a situation. Your name's about to be attached to a runaway bride scandal. The board wants to know if the rumors are true." Ava stood behind her, heart hammering. Reese didn't even blink. "Tell the board to keep their noses out of my personal life. And if they push, I'll remind them who holds the majority shares. This affects public image. Then let them spin it. Let them underestimate me. They always do." The man looked past her at Ava. "She's not good for optics. Then optics will have to adjust." Reese snapped, slamming the door in his face. Ava stared at her. "What happens now?" Reese turned to her slowly. "Now we stopped pretending we're not at war." The war had begun, but the battlefield wasn't a boardroom or a courtroom. It was the world outside their quiet little sanctuary, the one Ava had tried so hard to forget and Reese had worked so long to avoid. In the days that followed the visit from Reese's corporate watchdogs, things shifted. Not between them. If anything, the bond between Reese and Ava grew stronger, more defined, but around them. The outside world, once held at bay, was now clawing at the walls. Reese was on her phone more often, speaking in low-clipped tones, legal teams, PR strategists, security contacts. It was like watching someone put on armor piece by piece, her softness replaced by something sharp and untouchable. Ava tried not to feel small in comparison. But it wasn't easy. "You don't have to protect me from everything," she said one morning, watching Reese finish a call. Reese turned. "I'm not just protecting you. I'm protecting us. But you're the one taking the hits because I know how and because no one else will." Ava crossed the room and touched her arm. "I want to fight, too. Don't shut me out." Reese's eyes softened. "Just a little. I'm not shutting you out. I'm shielding you until the storm passes. What if it never does? Then we build a shelter together." It sounded noble, even romantic. But it didn't stop the dread curling in Ava's stomach. Especially when the next call came, not for Reese, but for her. It was her mother. Ava stared at the name flashing across the screen like a warning. "Answer it," Reese said quietly. "You'll never be free of them if you don't start setting boundaries." Ava answered, "Mother." "So, it's true." Her mother snapped without preamble. "You've run off with some woman." "What the hell are you thinking, Ava?" "I'm thinking for myself." Finally. "Do you have any idea what you've done to this family? Your father is livid. The Whitmores are threatening legal action for breach of contract. And now the media is having a field day because you're hiding out with some nobody." "She's not a nobody. She's not Preston." "Thank God for that," Ava muttered. Her mother's gasp was audible. "You think this is funny? Your father's talking about cutting you off. No trust fund, no inheritance. You're destroying everything we built for you. You built a prison and I'm walking away from it. You'll regret this." Her mother hissed. "One day when that woman gets bored or you realize how far you've fallen. The only thing I regret is not leaving sooner." Ava ended the call. Her hands were shaking, but her heart felt strangely steady. Reese had been listening, leaning against the doorway. "You okay?" Ava turned, eyes glassy but proud. "I think I just burned the last bridge I had to my old life." Reese walked to her, brushing a thumb across her cheek. "Then it's time to start building something new." That afternoon, a car arrived, not flashy, one of Reese's, no doubt. The driver handed her a thick envelope and left without a word. Ava sat beside her on the porch as Reese opened it. Inside documents, statements, photos, Ava caught a glimpse of a glossy magazine mock-up. Her face on the cover beside Reese's. The headline read, "From Wedding Bells to War. The Woman Who Stole the Runaway Bride's Heart." Ava's stomach turned. "They're painting you as some homewrecker." Reese flipped to another page and you as a confused Aries having a mental breakdown. "It's a narrative, one they can sell." "Huh? How do we stop it?" "We don't rewrite it." That night, Reese sat down and drafted a public statement. It was raw, unapologetic, and full of fire. She didn't hide their relationship. She didn't play victim. She simply told the truth about how she met Ava, how love was never meant to be explained to people who wanted it to follow rules. And she signed it with her full name, Reese Kincaid, CEO, founder, and unapologetic woman in love. "You sure about this?" Ava asked, heart pounding. "Once it's out, there's no going back." Reese looked at her, something unshakable in her gaze. "You're the only thing I've ever been sure of." The next morning, the internet exploded. Some comments were brutal. Others shockingly supportive. Hashtags trended. News anchors debated. Former allies turned cold. New admirers emerged. But none of that mattered compared to what came next. A letter hand-delivered from Preston. Ava opened it in silence, Reese beside her. It was short. "Ava, I hope you're happy. You certainly made a spectacle of things. Just know this isn't over. Some mistakes come with consequences." Ava felt the chill of it crawl under her skin. Reese read it too and said nothing, but her jaw tightened and she slid her hand into Ava's, squeezing just enough to say, "I won't let him touch you." But they both knew it wouldn't end there. It started with the letter, but it didn't end there. Within 48 hours, Ava's email was flooded with cryptic messages. No subject lines, no sender names, just one sentence repeated over and over again. "You don't know who she really is." Reese traced the IP addresses, dead ends, and proxies. She cursed under her breath as she shut the laptop. "Preston," she said, "it has to be." Ava sat at the kitchen table, her fingers wrapped tightly around a mug she hadn't touched. "He's playing a game." "No," Reese said. "He's escalating and he's good at it." "How do you know?" Reese looked at her, then slowly sat across from her. "Because I've played games like this before with men like him. Only difference is this time I actually have something to lose." Ava reached across the table, covering Reese's hand. "We're not going to let him win." Reese gave her a small, weary smile. "Then we need to think like him. Smarter, colder." The next day, they left the cabin. It wasn't safe anymore. Not because of Preston's threats, but because the world knew where they were. Reese drove them to one of her properties upstate, an old stone estate hidden behind dense trees and a winding private road. It was colder here, and the house creaked with history, but Ava could breathe again. For a moment, they spent the first night curled up in front of the fireplace, talking in hushed tones about their pasts. Finally, Ava spoke of boarding schools and cold dinners with people who only spoke in investment terms. Reese told her about sleeping in her car during her first year out of college. Working 2 jobs while building a side business no one believed in. "I taught myself to disappear before anyone could leave me," Reese said, staring into the flames. "That's what I'm still unlearning. And I let people write my story for me," Ava whispered. "But not anymore." Reese kissed her slow and deep, like sealing a promise. But the peace didn't last. On the third morning, Ava's face was plastered across yet another headline, this time accusing her of corporate espionage. Ava leaks Whitmore's secrets to lover-turned corporate rival. The article detailed fabricated emails, quotes from anonymous insiders, and heavily manipulated photos. Reese's name was used like a weapon. Ava stared at the screen in shock. "They're saying I leaked Preston's company files to you." Reese leaned over her shoulder, reading it. "It's coordinated. Someone wants to ruin you." "It's him." "Of course, it's him. But this level of detail, he has help." "What do we do?" Reese stood. "We hid back." Ava followed her into the office. Reese pulled open a locked drawer, revealing a black case. Inside, drives, files, old phones. "What is this?" "Insurance. Things I've kept from past deals. People like Preston don't rise without stepping on necks. And I've been watching him longer than you know." "You have files on Preston?" "I have files on everyone," Reese said darkly. "I just never thought I'd have to use them." Ava watched her move like a different person. Precise, focused, quietly furious. You scare me when you're like this. Good. That means they'll be terrified. Reese sent an anonymous tip to a journalist known for exposing corruption. She attached one document, just one, connecting Preston to a shell company tied to illegal offshore accounts. We don't have to destroy him, Reese said. Just expose enough to make him stop, but Preston didn't stop. That night, the estate's security system was triggered. Motion sensors, perimeter breach. Reese grabbed Ava's hand and pulled her into the panic room, an underground space lined with steel and monitors. Is this normal for your life? Ava asked, trying to steady her breath. Reese glanced at the cameras. No, this is war. On the screen, two figures moved across the property line, then turned back as if confirming the location. They didn't break in. They didn't need to. They wanted Reese to know they could. We're not safe here, Ava whispered. Not unless we go public again, Reese said. This time with more than love, with truth. You mean fight him with exposure? Exactly. Ava exhaled. Then let's burn the empire down. By morning, they'd lined up an interview, not with a gossip mill, but a seasoned investigative journalist. Reese went all in, her name, her past, her companies, her reach. Ava told hers, too, how the engagement had been more contract than courtship, how Preston pulled the strings, and how walking away was the first choice that ever felt like hers. The piece dropped at midnight. By dawn it was a detonation. Preston's lawyers issued a denial. The Whitmores released a frostbitten statement. Behind the curtain, deals frayed, stocks slid, partners withdrew, and through it all, Reese planted herself in front of Ava, unshaken. This is only the opening salvo, she said. Good, Ava answered. I'm done being afraid. The blaze didn't die down. It widened. The next morning they watched the news cycle churn like a riptide. Pundits dissected Reese's empire. Analysts gamed out Whitmore Investments' fall. Social feeds split in two, some lauding Ava's courage, others licking their lips at the spectacle, eager to twist it into something sordid. None of it prepared them for what landed next, a formal lawsuit, hand-delivered by courier. A thick, punishing stack accusing them both of defamation, tortious interference, reputational sabotage. Preston wasn't retreating. He was escalating. He wants blood, Ava said, voice trembling as she scanned the pages. He wants a public execution, Reese corrected. Yours. Mine. Both. She took the packet, then let it fall to the floor with surgical calm. So, let's give him something else. Like what? Reese stared at her, the wheels already turning. Like a truth he can't manipulate. A truth so big it buries him. What truth? Ava asked, but Reese didn't answer. Not right away. Instead, she disappeared into her office, door closed for hours. Ava tried not to spiral, but the silence felt like a wall between them. She thought they were past this, past the hiding, the secrets, the shutting down when things got hard. But the air shifted when Reese finally reappeared. A USB drive in her hand and a haunted look in her eyes. What is that? Ava asked. My confession, Reese said. What I've never told anyone. Reese. You want to take him down? We do it clean. We do it honestly. And we start with me. Ava took a slow breath. Whatever this is, whatever you're about to tell me, it doesn't change how I feel. Reese looked at her like she wanted to believe that. Then she sat down, set the drive on the table, and began. Years ago, when I was just starting out, I made a deal with the Whitmores, not with Preston, his father. It was under the table, hush funding for a project they couldn't publicly support. It helped me grow my company fast, too fast, and I paid for it. They pulled out last minute, left me on the hook for everything. I almost lost everything. So, I fought back quietly, strategically. I bought out their silent partners. I rerouted shares. I bled them from the inside. It took years, and I never stopped. Ava stared. You've been dismantling their empire this whole time. Piece by piece, Reese said, her voice calm. And Preston always knew something was wrong. He just never figured out it was me. So, the business war started long before I met you. Long before, Reese confirmed. You were never part of the plan. You were the interruption. Ava's heart twisted. Do you regret it? No, Reese said instantly. You're the only thing I didn't plan and the only thing I don't regret. They submitted the drive to the same journalist who broke the first story. Within 12 hours, headlines exploded again. Exclusive. Tech tycoon admits secret war against billionaire banking family. The world turned its gaze from Ava to Reese. And suddenly the narrative shifted. Reese went from mystery to mastermind, villain to anti-hero. Public opinion flipped. Some praised her, others demonized her, but everyone listened. Preston responded exactly as predicted. More threats, more lawyers, more spin. But for the first time, he was no longer in control of the story. Reese was. Ava tried to breathe through it all. But the pressure cracked something inside her one evening when she saw the front page of a magazine. The woman between rivals, Ava Lockwood's heart on trial. It wasn't just about business anymore. Now they were painting her as the pawn in a power struggle between two titans. As if her heart didn't matter, as if her voice didn't count. She threw the magazine into the fireplace and sat on the floor. Arms wrapped around her knees, Reese found her there. And for the first time in days, Ava didn't pretend to be fine. They think I'm just a prize to be won, she said. They think I don't even have thoughts of my own. Reese knelt in front of her. They're wrong, and you don't need to prove anything to anyone but yourself. I don't want to be caught between two powerful people fighting for control. You're not between us. Reese said, you're above all of it. You just haven't stepped into it yet. And you? Ava asked. Are you still fighting him or are you just trying to save me? Reese's eyes darkened. I stopped fighting for revenge the day I saw you on that sidewalk. Everything since then has been for us. Ava leaned forward, pressing her forehead to Reese's. Then let's win this together. We will, Reese whispered. But it means one more step. What? Reese stood, walked to her office, and returned with an envelope. Inside, an invitation, a gala hosted by the Whitmore family, a public high-profile event celebrating their latest charitable foundation. An event where Preston would be center stage. He invited me? Ava asked stunned. No, Reese said. But I think it's time we crashed his party. The night of the gala arrived like a storm Ava had been walking toward for years without knowing it. The Whitmore Foundation's annual charity event was the kind of affair that riot of old money and quiet menace held at a gleaming art museum downtown. Surrounded by spotlights, velvet ropes, and the carefully curated illusion of elegance. Every year, it was a performance, and this year, Ava Lockwood was about to steal the stage. Reese stood beside her in the car, wearing a tailored black suit that made her look every bit the CEO she'd hidden for so long. Ava had chosen a deep emerald gown. No white, no innocence, just power wrapped in silk. When they stepped out of the car, the cameras didn't just flash. They exploded. Gasps. Shouts. Dozens of paparazzi shouted their names, begging for reactions. Ava kept her chin high, hand in Reese's. Every step up the marble stairs, a declaration. I'm not hiding anymore. Inside, the gala buzzed like a nest of wasps. Suddenly disturbed. Heads turned. Champagne flutes paused midair. Conversations died. The orchestra played on, but the room itself was frozen. And then he appeared. Preston, standing at the top of the grand staircase like a prince who hadn't realized the kingdom no longer belonged to him. His smile was tight, calculated. And as his eyes locked onto Ava, Reese stepped closer, possessive and silent, her presence enough to make the ground beneath them shift. Ava, Preston said, descending slowly. I didn't expect to see you. Liar, she replied coolly. You wanted this, and yet here you are with her. He nodded toward Reese, the woman who's made a hobby of tearing down everything my family built. No, Ava said. She only exposed what your family covered up. That's quite a perspective shift for someone who used to beg for a seat at our table. I'm building my own table now, she said, and the crowd around them tensed with interest. Reese stepped in. You tried to erase me. Intimidate her. Destroy both of us. But you forgot something, Preston. He raised an eyebrow. What's that? We don't kneel. A ripple passed through the room. People pretending not to watch were now fully turned captivated. Preston's mask slipped just for a second. You think this is over? No, Reese said. I think it's just beginning. Then let me make one thing clear. He hissed, stepping closer. You're not one of us, Reese. You'll never belong in this world. Reese smiled slow and razor sharp. I don't want to belong. I want to own it. Gasps followed that. A woman nearby dropped her champagne glass. The tension was electric, almost theatrical. And in that moment, Ava realized that the gala wasn't just a party. It was a battleground. And she wasn't a casualty. She was a weapon. A man with a microphone approached. Likely the MC trying to steer the event back on course. But Reese took the mic before he could speak. She turned to the crowd. Since we're all being watched anyway, I'd like to say something. Ava's heart thundered. Reese continued, voice calm but clear. The Whitmores have accused me of corruption, of manipulation, of deceit. Some of that is true. I did infiltrate. I did dismantle, but not for revenge, for justice. For every woman like me who was told to stay small. For every person who was told they didn't belong in the rooms they built with their own hands. And especially for the woman who stands beside me tonight. Reese turned to Ava. She was supposed to marry into this world. Instead, she chose to walk away, and in doing so, she walked into her truth, into mine. Whispers spread like wildfire. Ava felt her hands shaking, but she stood taller. Reese offered her the mic. Ava hesitated, then took it. My name is Ava Lockwood, and yes, I left my fiancé at the altar. Not because I was lost, but because I finally found the courage to be found by myself and by someone who sees me beyond bloodlines and trust funds. Someone who doesn't just tolerate my voice, but amplifies it. Her eyes found Reese's. I thought I needed a perfect life. Turns out I just needed a real one. Applause broke out. Tentative at first, then louder and louder. Even a few board members clapped. The tide had turned. Preston stood frozen, expression unreadable, but Ava saw it. Cracks forming in the facade. He'd polished his entire life. After the speech, the crowd swarmed them. Some offered congratulations. Others whispered proposals, but all of them looked at Reese and Ava, not as gossip fodder, but as power. Real undeniable power. Later, as they stood alone in the rooftop garden, Reese traced her fingers down Ava's arm. You were brilliant. I was terrified. You didn't look it. Neither did you. Reese smiled. I was. But I kept thinking if she's brave enough to come here in that dress in this room, I can be brave enough to stand beside her. Ava leaned in. We're not done, are we? No, Reese said, kissing her softly. But we're not hiding anymore either. Downstairs, Preston watched them from the shadows of the ballroom, drink untouched in his hand, teeth clenched. One of his advisors leaned close. What's the next move? Preston didn't take his eyes off Ava. We break her where it hurts. They thought they'd survived the worst. After the gala, after the speech, after the world saw them not as a scandal, but as a storm worth respecting, Reese and Ava returned to the estate with a rare sense of peace. The internet was still ablaze, sure, but this time it was different. There were essays praising Ava's courage, business columns dissecting Reese's empire, even late-night hosts joking about how Preston Whitmore had been dethroned by a woman in silk and a CEO in shadows. For 48 hours, they allowed themselves to believe they had turned the tide. Then the past came knocking. It arrived in the form of a leak. An anonymous email blasted to every major outlet filled with grainy photos, transcripts, and a voice recording. It was old, but not old enough to be forgotten. Ava read the article with shaking hands. Reese Kincaid, The Hidden History. Former partner accuses CEO of corporate manipulation, emotional coercion, and strategic relationship sabotage. The voice in the recording was unmistakably Reese's. Calm, calculated, dismantling someone's reputation in a tone cold enough to freeze blood. Ava's world tilted. Reese wasn't in the room. She was downstairs on a call. Ava read the transcript twice, then a third time. It was dated 3 years ago. A woman named Maya Voss, someone Reese had once mentored, someone she had allegedly destroyed after a business fallout. The media now painted it as a pattern. Reese using intimacy to gain trust, then crushing those who got in her way. And the question everyone was suddenly asking wasn't whether Ava had escaped Preston. It was whether she just walked into something worse. When Reese came upstairs, her phone in her hand, Ava was already packed. What's going on? Reese asked, frowning. Is it true? Ava asked. Reese's face changed. What did you read? Don't do that, Ava snapped. Don't answer a question with another question. Just tell me, did you use that woman? Did you ruin her career? Reese shut the door behind her. Maya and I worked together. She was brilliant, but she made a deal behind my back that would have cost the company everything. I confronted her. She leaked confidential data. We both went to war. And the voice recording spliced, manipulated. I said some of those things, not all of them, and not the way they're making it sound. But you never told me because it was over. And I didn't want you to look at me like you're looking at me now. Ava took a breath. Do you love me? Yes. Then why do I feel like I don't know you at all? Reese stepped closer. You do. You know the part of me no one else gets to see. The part one only show you. But this Ava gestured to the headlines on her phone. This feels like proof that everyone was right about you. Everyone doesn't know me. You do. Then tell me the truth. All of it. No edits. Reese sat down quiet for a long moment. Then she spoke. When I started building what I have now, I was alone. No help, no allies. I was young, a woman, and broke in a world built for men with money and last names that opened doors. I played the game. I manipulated when I had to. I made enemies. I cut people out. I learned how to win the way they did ruthlessly. But I never lied about what I wanted. And I never pretended to be someone I'm not. Ava sat across from her. And now, what do you want now? Reese didn't blink. You. Only you. I built an empire to prove I could survive. But you make me want to live. The words hit something in Ava's chest that ached because she wanted to believe them so badly. But trust, once shaken, didn't settle easily. I need space, Ava said quietly. Reese flinched. Please don't run. I'm not running. I need time to understand if the woman I love is the same one the world says I should fear. She is, Reese whispered. She's just harder to love when the lights are on. Ava didn't speak again. She picked up her bag and left. No shouting, no dramatic exit, just a woman who wasn't sure if her heart had led her somewhere safe or somewhere dangerous. The days that followed were slow and cruel. Paparazzi tracked Ava to a boutique hotel on the coast. She refused all interviews. Reese didn't call. She didn't text. And that hurt worse than anything because it meant Reese was giving her what she asked for: space. But in the silence, Ava began to see the cracks between fact and narrative. She reread the articles, listened to the audio again, compared statements, and what emerged wasn't a villain, but a survivor. A strategist, a woman who'd built something out of nothing and made hard choices in a world that punished softness. And somewhere in that storm, Reese had become human again. Not flawless, but real. On the fourth day, Ava called her. Hi, Reese answered, voice raw. I don't know what's next, Ava said. I'm still angry, still scared. I know, but I miss you. And I think the part of me that wants to stay is stronger than the part of me that wants to run. Reese was quiet for a second. Then I'll be wherever you need me to be. Just tell me where to go. Ava drew a breath. Come find me. Reese didn't pause. The instant Ava said it, she was already moving, throwing essentials into a bag, arming the estate's automated security, then driving through the night with nothing but Ava's voice looping in her head. She had no idea what she'd walk into. She didn't expect forgiveness. She barely let herself hope for more than a chance to speak. No defenses, no armor, just the truth. The hotel was hushed, tucked into the cliffs, waves thundering far below like memory trying to claw its way up. Reese found the room number without trouble, heart pounding so hard she almost missed the sound of her own knock. The door opened at once. Ava stood there barefoot, wrapped in a soft white robe, eyes wide, tired, unsure. Reese said nothing. She couldn't. She didn't have to. Ava stepped aside. Reese slipped in. The door clicked shut behind them, final punctuation on a sentence that had waited too long. For a beat, neither spoke. They just looked, really looked. Ava was changed, still hurt, but steadier, rooted, stronger than when she left. And Reese looked stripped bare, unmade, eyes rimmed red with sleeplessness, voice snagged in her throat like she hadn't taken a full breath since Ava walked out. You came? Ava said at last. You asked, Reese managed, voice breaking. Silence settled again, taut and bright, unspoken things sparking like static between them. Ava crossed the room slowly and stopped inches away. I thought space would help me forget how deeply you got under my skin, how much I wanted you to be who I believed you were. It didn't. Reese swallowed hard. And now? Now I know you're not perfect. I know you're complicated and secretive and terrifyingly good at surviving, and that scares you. No, Ava whispered. That makes me want to know you more. Reese closed her eyes just for a second, the weight of that confession sinking in. I'm not used to people coming back, and I'm not used to walking away from something that matters. They were so close now, a breath apart. Reese lifted a hand slowly, touching Ava's cheek like she was asking permission. Ava leaned into it. That was the answer. The kiss that followed wasn't soft. It wasn't delicate. It was hungry, desperate, like time and fear and heartbreak had all been waiting for this one moment to be undone. Ava clung to Reese's shirt, pulled her closer, deeper, and Reese let herself be taken. Finally, without hesitation, they moved together like they were building something with their hands, something new, something unspoken but solid. On the bed, against the soft sheets, they didn't talk about the past. They only talked with their mouths, their hands, the sounds they made in the dark. After they lay tangled in silence, Ava's head on Reese's chest, listening to her heartbeat like it was the only sound left that mattered. "I don't want to go back to who I was," Ava whispered. "You won't," Reese said. "You already burned that version down. What about you?" "I don't want to keep running." "Then don't." Reese exhaled, fingers trailing softly along Ava's spine. "He's not done, you know. Preston, the leak, the lawsuit. It wasn't just to destroy me. It was to separate us. And he failed for now. But I think he's got one more move." "Let him try," Ava said. "I'm not afraid of him anymore." Reese turned to her, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. "I just got you back. I don't want to lose you again. Then let's stop waiting for his next move. Let's make ours." The plan came together over the next few hours. Half strategy, half instinct. They weren't going to hide anymore. They weren't going to wait to be hit again. Reese reached out to Maya Voss herself. "Set a meeting. No lawyers, no press, just them face to face." "Are you sure?" Ava asked as they waited in the dim back room of a private club in Crestwick. She could twist this into another trap. "I know," Reese said, "but I'm done letting other people tell her story." When Maya entered, her expression was unreadable. She sat across from them, legs crossed, and for a long moment said nothing. "You're brave to meet me." She finally said, "You're braver than I was back then," Reese replied. Maya looked at Ava. "So, this is the woman who makes you risk your entire kingdom." "This is the woman who made me stop building walls," Reese said. Ava felt her heart stutter. Maya nodded slowly. "I didn't lie in the article. But I didn't tell the whole truth either." "You didn't ruin me, Reese. I ruined myself the moment I tried to use what you taught me against you. But I needed to punish someone. And you were the one left standing." "Then say that," Reese said softly. "Not for me. For her." Maya looked at Ava again, this time with something that wasn't pity or judgment, but understanding. "You don't need my permission to love her, but maybe you needed my clarity," she stood. "I'll make it right. Not because I owe Reese anything, but because you do." When she left, Ava turned to Reese, stunned. "What just happened?" Reese stared at the door. "We stopped running." The calm after the storm was never just quiet. It was loaded, heavy with expectation, like the air before a lightning strike. Reese and Ava returned from their meeting with Maya changed. Not fixed, not healed entirely, but clearer. Their love had survived the kind of fire most relationships couldn't even name. And yet, they both knew it wasn't over. Not while Preston still had cards to play. The morning after Maya publicly released her statement, clearing Reese's name, retracting the manipulation claims, and exposing the pressure she'd received from unnamed, interested parties. Everyone knew who that meant. The world shifted again. Headlines changed. Public sympathy realigned. Articles that once portrayed Reese as a ruthless saboteur now praised her for confronting her past head-on. Ava was no longer a lost eyes, but a woman who had chosen her own path. Loudly, defiantly. For a few brief moments, it felt like they had finally taken control of the narrative. But Reese knew Preston better than anyone. And he wouldn't go down without dragging them through something darker. She felt it coming like a bruise beneath the skin. It arrived on a Tuesday. A discreet email. No sender, no subject, just a link. Ava opened it first. She shouldn't have. The moment she clicked, she froze. Reese noticed instantly. "What is it?" Ava didn't answer. Just turned the screen toward her. Reese stared. It was footage, surveillance of her years ago. A hotel room, a conversation edited, stitched together, but unmistakably damning. The voiceover, digitally enhanced, claimed it was proof that Reese had seduced clients in exchange for insider business information. "This is fake," Reese said, standing quickly. This isn't real. It's a deep fake." "I know," Ava said softly. "But no one else will." Within hours, it was everywhere. Gossip sites, business columns, even reputable outlets picked it up. The video had all the things a public scandal needed. Power, sex, betrayal. People believed what they wanted to believe. And Preston knew it. "We can fight this," Reese said, pacing the room like a caged animal. "We can bring in a forensics team. We can prove it's manipulated." "That's not the point," Ava replied. "You said it yourself. He's not trying to win in court. He's trying to make people doubt us." "It won't work." "It already is," Ava whispered, holding up her phone where she scrolled through hundreds of hateful comments, speculative articles, and betrayal memes. Reese sat down hard. For the first time in weeks, she looked defeated. "I should have ended him years ago." Ava came to her, kneeling in front of her. "Then let's end him now. Not with silence, with truth. All of it." Reese met her eyes. "Even the parts one never wanted the world to know. Especially those. We don't win by playing his game. We win by refusing to play it at all." That night, Reese went live. Not through PR, not through lawyers. Just her in front of her phone. Ava's hand resting silently on her thigh just out of frame. She looked into the lens with the palm of someone who'd already lost everything and survived. "What you saw today was false. A digital manipulation designed to ruin me. And not because I'm dangerous, but because I'm inconvenient. I've built my life from nothing. I've played fair and I've played hard, but I've never sold myself. Not my body, not my soul. This attack isn't just against me. It's against the woman I love." A desperate move by someone who thinks he owns her, who thinks he still owns this story. "But I'm here to tell you he doesn't, and he never did." She paused, breath shaking just once. "My name is Reese Kincaid. I built my empire with my own hands. And I won't let a man with inherited power and no soul burn it down. If you believe in truth, stand with us. If you believe in women who fight back, amplify us. Because I'm not ashamed of who I am. And neither is she." Ava leaned in. Then kissed her cheek and whispered, "You didn't just survive. You're showing other people how to." The internet cracked in half. The hashtag Reeseen Ava exploded. Celebrities reposted the video. Cybersecurity experts confirmed the deep fake analysis. Support poured in. Lawsuits threatened Preston's media partners. His digital army crumbled under the weight of their own lies. But the biggest blow came from inside. One of Preston's own board members leaked internal messages proving he funded the smear campaign. Within 72 hours, Preston Whitmore went from powerful executive to disgraced pariah. He disappeared from the public eye. No statement, no apology, just silence. The kind cowards cling to when the noise turns against them. Ava and Reese watched it all unfold, not with triumph, but with quiet disbelief. They didn't celebrate. They didn't toast. They just held each other in the dark and exhaled for the first time in weeks. "It's over," Ava whispered. Reese kissed her temple. "Almost." "What do you mean?" "We still have to decide what comes next now that the war is ending." Ava turned to her, eyes soft but certain. "I want to build something with you. Not just a life, a purpose." Reese smiled. "Say the word." "I want to use everything we've learned, everything we've survived, and help other women walk away from lives that never belonged to them, just like I did." Reese's eyes lit up. "A foundation, a rebellion," Ava corrected, wrapped in strategy and softness. Reese grinned. "God, I love you." Ava laughed, a sound full of light. "Then come with me. Let's write the next chapter ourselves." The dust had barely settled before Ava began planting seeds. She didn't want a vacation. She didn't want silence. What she wanted, what she needed was to turn everything she and Reese had endured into something that meant more than survival. Something that echoed, something that changed. They called it the Reclamation Project. It started with a single page on a blank website. For every woman who was told she couldn't leave. For every girl who was told she couldn't lead. For every voice that was drowned out by money, tradition, or fear, this is for you. At first, it was just the two of them. Reese with her connections and infrastructure. Ava with her vision and voice. Then came the volunteers, then the lawyers, then the donors. Within a month, they had a team. Within 2, they had office space in Crestwick and a satellite center opening in Bayhaven. They partnered with shelters, with financial aid institutions, with legal organizations. They created escape plans for women in gilded cages and resources for those who'd already fled. But beyond all the logistics, the numbers, the media buzz, it was personal. Deeply personal. The night of the official launch, Reese stood backstage with Ava, watching the audience violin. A mix of survivors, activists, media, and industry giants. It was surreal. You know, Reese said, adjusting Ava's mic. When I first saw you running barefoot down that street, I thought you were just a symbol of another mess I didn't need in my life. Ava laughed softly. And now I know you were the beginning of everything real. Ava kissed her gently right there behind the curtain. The kind of kiss that didn't ask for anything. It just was. I used to think I needed to be chosen, she whispered. Now I know I just needed to choose myself. Reese nodded, eyes glossy. And you still chose me anyway. Every day, Ava said, even when it's hard, especially then when she stepped onto the stage, the room went quiet. The spotlights caught the soft shimmer of her suit. No dress this time. No veil, no illusion, just a woman standing fully in herself. She looked out at the crowd, took a breath, and spoke. I was supposed to marry a man who came from a world of power. Instead, I ran away into the arms of someone who didn't try to own me, but challenged me to own myself. I've been hated, adored, silenced, and spotlighted. And I've learned that survival is not enough. I don't want to just survive. I want to build, and that's why we're here. She introduced the mission, the services, the vision. But the moment that stayed with everyone came near the end when her voice broke just slightly and she said to the girls still trapped in pretty prisons, "You are not alone. We are waiting for you. And when you come out, we won't ask why it took so long. We'll just say welcome home." The standing ovation was instant, raw, emotional. Reese met her backstage with tear-filled eyes and didn't say anything, just wrapped her arms around her and held her like something sacred. The days after the launch were a whirlwind. Interviews, meetings, strategic partnerships. Ava was everywhere. No longer the girl abandoned at the altar, but a woman leading a revolution. Reese remained slightly in the background by choice, directing, empowering, protecting. I like being the muscle, she joked one night, pouring wine as Ava reviewed a proposal from a global foundation. You're the heart. I'm the structure. Ava looked up. You're both. You're the reason this exists. Reese shrugged. I'm just following you now. But Ava knew the truth. Reese wasn't behind her. She was beside her. Always. When they finally took a weekend away, just 2 days off-grid in a private villa by the sea, Ava woke up in a bed filled with light and the scent of salt air and jasmine. Reese stood by the window shirtless, coffee in hand, reading something on her phone. Ava watched her for a long moment, realizing something quiet and seismic. This was what safety looked like. Not absence of risk, but presence of truth. "Marry me," she said, the words out before she could second-guess them. Reese turned slowly, blinking. "What?" Ava sat up, heart racing, but voice steady. "I don't want a wedding. I don't want flowers or crowds or cameras. I just want to choose you formally, legally, loudly, quietly, however you'll have me." Reese stared at her for a long moment, then set her coffee down, walked to the bed and knelt. "No ring, no script, just this. I've waited my whole life for someone to ask me that without needing me to be anything but who I am. So, yes, God, yes." They didn't call anyone. They didn't post about it. They just kissed, laughed, cried, and curled into each other like two halves of the same answer. The next morning, Reese filed the paperwork herself. No public fanfare, no headline, just 2 names joined quietly in a system built to record beginnings. And yet, it felt like a victory louder than any speech. There were no bells, no aisle, no guests, just a quiet courthouse on a rainy Tuesday. A clerk with kind eyes and 2 women standing side by side with hands clasped so tightly it was hard to tell where one ended and the other began. Ava wore black, sleek, elegant, free. Reese wore white, crisp, tailored, unapologetically hers. The symbolism wasn't planned, but it felt right. They signed the paperwork with steady hands, said their vows in whispers meant for no one else's ears, and kissed like it wasn't a beginning, but a continuation of a choice they'd made 1,000 times already. When they stepped back out into the gray drizzle, Reese lifted her face to the sky and laughed. "We did it." Ava grinned. "We really did. No champagne later. No flowers. I have everything I need. No regrets." Ava turned, taking Reese's face in both hands. Not one. The world didn't pause for them, but it shifted quietly, powerfully, like the universe had finally caught up to what their hearts had known for months. That love built on truth, forged in fire, was the kind that didn't need permission to last. Back in the city, the reclamation project flourished. They opened centers in Iron Vale, then Rainport, then Maple Harbor. Reese created a digital security branch that offered pro bono protection to women fleeing surveillance and harassment. Ava launched a mentorship program that paired survivors with entrepreneurs, activists, and creatives. Every week they received letters, long, messy, beautiful letters from women who said, "Because of you, I walked away. Because of you, I believed I deserved more." They read them together at night, curled up on the couch, fingers tangled, hearts too full to speak. Sometimes Reese cried. Sometimes Ava did. Most nights they just held each other in reverent silence. Once, months after the courthouse vows, Ava stood in the doorway of Reese's office, watching her on a video call, commanding yet calm, smiling with that rare softness reserved only for moments of peace. "Do you still think about the first time you saw me?" Ava asked when the call ended. Reese leaned back, smiling. "Every day." "What did you think?" Reese stood, walking to her slowly. "I thought you were trouble. And now I know you were my freedom in disguise." Ava reached for her. "You saved me." Reese shook her head. "No, I just made space. You saved yourself." They kissed slow and deep. The kind of kiss that made time irrelevant. That night they danced barefoot in the kitchen, music low, dinner forgotten on the stove. No rhythm, no performance, just movement, breath, skin. "What scares you now?" Ava asked as they swayed. Reese thought for a long moment. "The idea that this could all be taken away." "It won't be." "How do you know?" "Because I know what it feels like to lose everything." And this Ava brought their joined hands to her heart. "This wasn't like that at all." 1 year slipped by. Then another. Preston vanished from public view, the Whitmore name tarnished past repair. Whispers of exile, bankruptcy, a quiet, almost poetic collapse. Ava never looked back. Not once. One morning she woke to birdsong and surf and the warm weight of Reese's arm around her waist. They'd rented a beach house for the weekend, no phones, no meetings, just air, sunlight, and each other. Ava eased from the bed, tied a linen robe, and stepped outside. The water glinted like poured silver. Dawn blushed the sky a soft pink. She stood there breathing in the hush and smiled. Reese appeared a moment later, wrapping her from behind. "You always wake first." "I like the world before it's fully awake," Ava said. "It feels like us." She turned in Reese's arms. "Tell me we'll never forget how hard we fought for this." "We won't," Reese promised. "Not ever." "Tell me you'd do it all again." "Every scar, every headline, every sleepless night," Reese said, "to end up here?" "Absolutely." Ava drew her closer. "Then let's never go back to being small." Reese kissed her. Never again. Years would roll forward. Buildings would rise bearing their names. Lives would shift because of the work they began in the ashes of what tried to break them. None of it would outshine the quiet, morning coffee, rooftop sunsets, the shared look across a crowded room that said, "I see you. I still choose you." They had been broken. They had been remade. And now they weren't merely whole. They were home. If you enjoyed this content and want to support the channel in a special way, please click the thanks button below, the one with the heart and $sign icon. With super thanks, you can make a direct contribution to the channel, which helps me keep creating awesome videos for you.